Welcome everyone. I'm Nikhil Jain. I run this small venture called Foreign Admits, where we connect students with their aspiring international students and the mentors to have a one-to-one guidance. The reason we started it off because of the current education market, where people don't get direct and appropriate guidance, and the majority of the guidance has been biased, or there has been a lack of information or on awareness. The same thing which I also faced in the career, I would want not other students should also face, and try to get more realistic guidance from people who have actually been doing your kind of course, or being in your dream universities. So with the same thing, we have a very interesting mentor today with us who have studied mass communication and media from bachelor's in management studies, if I'm correct. And she comes from Mumbai, and now she is just graduated from Monash University, Australia. I think 8 months back now. It's been 8 months. So she's living in Melbourne. So without further ado, let me introduce Manmeet to all of you. Manmeet, can you give a brief introduction about yourself? It's a nice gesture.
So hi guys, my name is Manmeet Kaur Gulati. I come from the city Mumbai. I came to Melbourne as an international student to pursue my Master's in Communications and Media Studies. It was a complete 2-year course which started in February 2018 until December 2019. That's when I graduated. Throughout my 2 years, it was a real big mix of academics and extracurriculars, with a lot of experiences that come on board being an international student. My whole purpose of coming to Monash and Melbourne was to explore the life of an international student, the entire experience of studying in an international university, especially one of the top universities ranked in the world. And honestly, it's been a wonderful experience. And I believe, I just hope my experience can add some value and help you all in whatever thoughts you guys are going through, and whatever questions you all have. I really hope that I could just help you all answer a few of them. Thank you.
Perfect. So let's get to one of the very important questions. Why did you choose, mass communication and media as one of the, to pursue your masters? You come from a business background as your bachelor's is considered. Why this particular field?
So I did my bachelor's in bachelor management studies with my majors in finance. To be honest, so my majors was in finance, and you were supposed to select your majors in the last final year. How it worked, like finance was one of the majors that you could only get if you scored well throughout. So my scores were fairly good. I wouldn't say extraordinary, fairly good. My professor was happy to offer me finance, and I wanted to explore that, as I was already doing marketing, and I was practically working in marketing throughout my bachelor's. While working and while being so active in my bachelor's, I realized that I enjoyed being in a space around people. I felt that it was more of my comfort zone when I was used to be around people, and I'm sure you witnessed that at Harvard conference, HCL. So I used to enjoy staying around people, going and talking to them, meet, where I kind of explored this section of communication for myself. Though I was not exactly aware about the hows and whens of this arena, I really wanted to learn more about it. So that's the reason I thought of pursuing a master's in communications and media, because I felt it's something that, one, I am passionate about. I used to love doing it, and two, I wanted to learn about it.
Shifted from finance to media and communication. Okay. Would media choose Australia over other countries? And why Monash? What were the other choices that you had, which you could have chosen Monash?
Okay, so with me, what worked is I was not able to exactly make a choice that why this, why that. Okay, so what worked with me is a reverse psychology. What not? I started the whole list, and I started seeing what I don't want to do. That's how it worked with me. So finance, when you just said, I took up finance, I studied finance, I scored well in finance, but I realized that that's never what I want to do in my life. So the reverse psychology has worked fairly well for me, and I started, crossing the lines of what I don't want to do, and that I think is really helpful for people who are not able to come to a decision, or who are really not able to make up their mind to, because people generally know what they don't want to do. That's what actually
Yes,
happened with me. I
absolutely.
was much more clear that okay, I don't want to do anything related to science. I wanted to do something related to people. So, and I did not want to do related anything about finance. So those were like out of question. Then I did not want to do anything in psychology. I did not want to do anything in especially like basic arts. I did not want to do any basic arts degree. So when I went through the whole thing, I came down to my course, comms and media. And with respect to the country selection, HPER played a very important role in my country selection. So while I was going through my whole process of selecting my course, selecting my country, it's actually a process, to be very honest. When I was doing the whole thing, I'll just share with you guys briefly. Nikhil and I, we met at the Harvard Project for Asian and International Relations in 2017, which happened in Sydney. It is a Harvard conference which happens twice in the year, once in Boston and once in South Asia Pacific region. That one conference was like was a blessing in disguise for me, because when I was actually in the middle of my process to select my universities, I happened to attend HPER. I happened to travel to Sydney, and I really liked the environment of Australia. I really liked the environment of the multicultural environment of Sydney, particularly. I hadn't been to Melbourne until then. I just was until Sydney, and I really wanted to. We visited University of Sydney. We
Yes.
got an opportunity to interact with people there, which brought me a positive attitude and a positive outlook towards Australia. That's when I started considering Australia as my choice for my masters. Also, when I was here in Australia for the conference, I made sure to visit universities. And I'll be honest, guys, what worked for me was the vibe of the university. I did visit University of Melbourne. I visited Monash. Everything. I just wanted to have a vibe of it, and Monash vibe was the most relatable and the most comfortable. Of course, I don't expect, I mean, I'm sure a lot of you might not get that opportunity to visit a place before going to study. That was just a blessing for me that happened. But with respect to Australia, what my other options were when I started my whole hunt was Singapore. My other options were, of course, Singapore and United States, because I have we have a family friend, like a very very close family friends and relatives in the United States. So these were my two options. But again, what the question was, do I want to do a 1-year course? Do I want to do a 2-year course? Which university do I want to do in? How do I want things to shape up for me? How about my work visa? Everything plays a very important role in your selection process. So just saying that Australia happened because of one thing, that won't be fair. There were like quite a few reasons which made me select Australia as my destination for my masters.
Interesting. So I think, yeah, HPER did play a big role, in the
Very big
exposure.
role.
So, quick advice to the students: if you happen to get a chance to travel abroad for conferences like HPER and any other, do give that a shot, because it's not just
Absolutely.
about your study abroad; it's more about your exposure to the multicultural environment and to the new country, and that basically opens up your mind and makes you think a little broader than what you were originally thinking about the things. So yeah, so let's discuss a little bit more, details into the process when you fixed Australia and Monash. Okay, you must have, a lot of students go through this exam confusion. What exam to give? Whether to give IELTS, TOEFL. What works, what doesn't work. So what was your take on
Okay.
that?
It was, the exam confusion, I think, can be solved if you check the requirements. There are like, the university websites are very clear with what the requirements are. So when I was looking at when I came down to Australia as my destination, I wanted to only go to the top 10. That's the group of 10 universities. So I only wanted to be in the top 10. Actually, yeah. So I checked the requirements of each. So when you talk about IELTS or TOEFL, you need to be very specifically about the requirements, what your university will accept. If the university that you're looking for wants an IELTS, don't look at anything else. You have to give IELTS only. They won't take TOEFL for that. So again, IELTS and PT, what was that PTA exam? So these are the two English tests that are happily accepted in Australia. Um, I would recommend everyone to give these two. TOEFL, I believe, I'm not sure. Please don't go by my exact words. Check the requirements first. But I believe TOEFL is more accepted in United States. I'm not so sure on this information, so please don't exactly rely on it. But yes, Australia, I can be damn sure that IELTS and PTA are the two English exams that are accepted. So please check the requirements for the universities, because they exactly have it written that PTA or IELTS 6 band required, bachelor's in this. LOR, what so letter of recommendations or everything is very, very clearly written there.
Okay. So what exam did you give? You gave IELTS or you gave PT?
Yeah, I gave IELTS. I gave an IELTS. So my whole process of application and everything started 6 months before, and I gave an IELTS for it.
Yeah, I was about to ask that. What was the timeline that you have looked at?
6 months.
For the application.
It's safe. I would say it's safe for
Yes.
to have 6 months in hand, because because some universities respond very quickly, but some universities like University of Melbourne takes like, so in the whole amongst the all a group of 10 universities, University of Melbourne is known to take the maximum amount of time. So please, I would say, take time in your favor, have time in your favor, because you just don't want to rush through things and be the last one, because it's a very risky thing. You just don't want to play with your career, right?
Absolutely. I think early applications has a lot of advantage. We'll discuss as the webinar goes ahead. So you have definitely mentioned about why you chose media community, and I think this is a very interesting strategy when students are confused what they want to do. At least if you start with the process at what they don't want to do. And frankly, Manmeet, this actually worked for me also. When I was going for my PhD, I was very clear that I didn't want to do MBA. I don't like coding. So I was only into research. So it was very easier for me to cut down all the options and focus on one. So this could be one of the strategy for a lot of students. So
absolutely.
Apart from media communication, since you have spent a little bit of time into the industry, you would have seen across, what are the industries which are growing in Australia? Based on that, what kind of courses that you would have seen in your peers are being more favored nowadays in Australia?
As far as my experience has been, since I have come to Melbourne and at Monash, IT is one of the very the most booming courses and one of the most popular courses around me. A lot of students have bachelor's in IT, master's in IT, or master's in data sciences, master's in business and information systems. That's MBIS. That's what they popularly call here. So these 2-3 courses, I would say, engineering, of course, Monash is really good with engineering. So engineering, of course, medical, of course, but the IT side is something that I would like to highlight, because I genuinely would say that there are so many people studying IT, data sciences, MBIS, business information systems, and they have this whole thing of the getting a PR, permanent residency. So kind of works well.
Okay. Talking about your 2 years of experience, how was your 2 years academic and non-academic experiences? And do mention your channel also. Like I used to follow your channel, so yeah.
Don't worry, I definitely won't miss that for anything. So my 2 years, let's talk academically. So when academically, it was a bit of a challenging thing for me, especially in the semester 1, because the kind of education pattern that we study in India is so different from what we actually are thrown into here in international universities. We are always bound by textbook learning. We are always bound by a set pattern. But when you step out of India and come to an international exposure, you realize that assignments are all about research. It's all about understanding. It's all about the concept. It's all about the ideology. It's all about the narrative. It's so much about your perspective. And as I was studying comms and media, we did not have like exams, but we had like really big reports to be submitted, and I was not prepared to write so much. We had to write like 5,000, 8,000 words reports and essays, which came like a very big cultural shock for me. So I would say a piece of advice here would be that universities generally in the beginning of the semester, they give all the information on the day one. What assignments are due when? What are you expected to do in each assignment? How are you expected to present them? All the details. There is something called a unit guide. The unit guide has all these small details with every information and every question that you might have, an answer to every question actually. So it's very important to see the unit guide not one day before the submission, but in the week one, so that the whole process of the week 1 to week 12 is at ease. You're not struggling your way through, because it really can become a struggle for someone who is not used to that pattern of work. So academically, I tried to be a bit more prepared with my work. I used to, so the professors are very, very good. The professors at Monash have been like a support. Whenever you need them, you just have to email them and they will be right there answering all your questions. And I am sure you agree with me, Nikhil. The professors have been a backbone for me here. So whenever I had any problem, any question, I made sure I keep them in the loop, because students a lot of times would, sink in the questions just within themselves. They won't go out. They won't talk to people. They won't just interact with the professors either. That's one thing that I believe should be done, because the professors will guide you in the right way. If you're struggling with something, they will understand and tell you a solution about it. So that has worked well for me. I made sure that I was an active participant in my class. I maintained a good relationship with my professors, and if I had anything, any issue, any problem, I would write to them right away with no delays, and they were always there for help. So that's how my academic journey went. It was tough, but by the semester 4, I did manage to get through it well. It was a beautiful learning, I would say. But in the first semester, I was like, shit, a 2,000 word. How am I going to do it? And by the last semester, 8,000. Okay, no problem. 8,000 है ना, कोई बात नहीं. 500, 500, 500 करके divide कर हो जाएगा. That's how the whole mentality changes. It absolutely changes. So that's how you grow, I feel, academically, and non-academically. For me, Monash has been wonderful. That's one word I would say for my journey at Monash is wonderful, because I'm an extrovert person. I believe a lot here might not be, but I have a very extrovert and an active kind of a personality. I like to be out there. I mean, I just like to do that. So since my orientation day, since we had the orientation for comms and media, like the proper arts orientation, we were introduced to a lot of things that are happening in university. And trust me, guys, international universities have so many things, so many branches, so many extracurricular activities happening that you just don't even understand what to join and what not to. A piece of advice there from my side to all of you would be, join something of your course first. So if I am studying communication and media studies, every master's course has its own union of students. So we had so campus is comms and media postgraduate union of students. So that was my first goal to join, because that's gonna help me stay connected with my cohort. That should be my first priority. Like, पहले घर संभालो फिर बाहर का संभालो. It's totally that. Pehle, I wanted to make sure that I'm good with my cohort before I go out in the whole other cohorts, other students and all. So since day one, I made sure that I was a observer of how many things are going on, and in the week 2 I was clear about I want to join 5 things, and I'm going to do that in my semester 1 itself. So in the semester 1 I was a part of Comms and Media Postgraduate Union of Students. I was a part of the non-residential colleges. I was volunteering with a lot of small committees like the Indian Association. In my first semester itself, I'd already registered for volunteering with the city of Monash. So that comes out in the month of April. I was already there, putting my expression of interest for my volunteering, and then happened Radio Monash. Let's Groove with Bollywood. So, for those who don't know, I hosted my own radio show for 2 years, which is called Let's Groove with Bollywood. As you all can see, I love talking. That's exactly where I got it from. I hosted my own show for 2 years at Radio Monash, and the story behind it was very silly. Absolutely. I was out with my friends. One of my very close friend, Tanzia, you must be knowing Tanzia Haq. Yeah. So Tanzia she was studying. She was also studying at that time. So she wanted to go and meet Radio Monash because she wanted to ask them if she can volunteer for script writing or copywriting something. And she just told me that Meet, let's go. It's something related to media only. शायद तुझे भी कोई opportunity मिल जाए. I had just came back from Kmart with baltis in my hand. I literally had buckets in my hand. And with that, I went to the meeting. I was like, chalo, let's see what happens.
Yes.
When we went there, Sir John Monash bar, we were there. That's where the whole meeting was. We went there. She spoke to them about, being a copywriter. So they came to us and told us that, hey, you can volunteer as X, Y, Z. You can be a host. You can be a content writer. You can be this. I was like, 1 second. Do you mean host your own show? They were like, yeah, exactly. You can host your own show. I was like, I have no experience of hosting. Like, that's okay. This is a platform to give you experience. I was like, Tanzia, are you going to do this with me? Because I want to do it. And that's how it just happened. It's just happened like that. The one takeaway from this experience of mine was, Meet, if something comes in front of you, don't leave it. Because you just never know what it turns into. That's
Absolutely.
a biggest takeaway I had from that experience, and I made sure I did not leave my radio for 2 years. It taught me so much. I had a first-hand experience of being a radio jockey, learning the entire set of, the entire setup, having technical glitches, not realizing what to say at moments, interviewing people, playing good songs, making Snapchat videos, all of it. It's like had a wonderful first-hand experience with my radio. Sorry guys, is it going too much or am I okay?
It's absolutely fine. I think it's very important for students to understand that the extracurriculars is something that has not been pushed there, but there are too many options that you can actually look at. So I come from an engineering background. I've been to the Monash radio station just to check out where you used to do the show, at least in the Clayton side. And they had a very cool pod, yes, like a sleeping pod outside. It was really futuristic scenario. So one point I think is rightly mentioned, once you go as an international student, it's good to communicate and connect or enroll into your departmental communities first, or your field communities first, because it helps you cross network with your peers and all, and even the industrial lectures and all those things happen. So there's a big networking opportunity that opens up for a lot of at least engineering students. And then I think on the second note, having a little bit of extracurriculars also helps you to do these volunteering activities. Something that I may have learned, and probably you may agree or guide me about this, that volunteering in Australia is considered to be of really high importance on your resume if you're volunteered. So let's discuss a little bit about your internships and volunteering experiences, in masters, and also what did you do to build your profile in bachelor so that you could have gone a better university or this university masters.
Okay, so let me just first talk about how my journey at bachelor's was. It's very similar. I mean, I have always been like that. Okay, I have always been not just into my classes, into my educational side, but always out there in my in the extracurriculars, in my college festival. Let it be my college newsletter, let it be road track. I was a part of road track club of Thane Suburban for 5 years. So for those who don't know, road track is a youth wing of Rotary International, and it's generally for the youth. So if you're from 18 to 30 years of age, you are eligible to be a part of road track. So that's also helped me to become a kind of a person I am today. What I would say here is, in my bachelor's, I was just so active always that I enjoyed doing that. I really enjoyed being out there, and that's what has molded my personality. I was also in leadership roles, handling things, handling events, got my inclination towards event management through there. So through my bachelor's, it's always been a melange of extracurriculars and academics, the way it's been at Monash. So my experience at bachelor's was something very similar that I wanted to replicate at Monash. That was my ideology. When I was doing my bachelor's in SIS College of Arts, Science and Commerce in Science, I made sure I was just not a bookworm. I did want to, of course, score well. No one wants to fail in life, definitely. So failing वगैरह नहीं, but yeah, scoring decently well, doing well in your academics, but also again not leaving any opportunity that comes your way. Let it be my SIS Skyline, that was a college newsletter. I was the chairperson of Entrepreneurship Development Cell. I was in Visions, which was the college festival. So these things actually, make you more confident. They actually make you more confident and more and builds you from within. I also won 2 awards at SIS as a best all-rounder student in my final year, and I was the youngest student to be the best student in management studies in my first year itself. So these are the 2 things that actually made me feel more confident about myself and my abilities. I just wanted to replicate the same at Monash. So I made sure that my journey at Monash is similar. Talking about volunteering experiences, yes, I agree with you, Nikhil. Volunteering in Australia is considered to be very prestigious. They treat volunteers like, oh my God, you guys are working for us. That's such a wonderful thing. You guys want anything, we are there for you. They actually make you feel very welcome. And that's a wonderful feeling. Sharing my 2 experiences of volunteering actually. So one, I was volunteering with the Melbourne Fashion Week in my first year, which was in August 2018. I was volunteering there for almost a week, and my experience there of witnessing an international fashion show in the first row, of course, working and running around, helping them with everything is okay, but witnessing the whole aura was marvelous. It was absolutely marvelous, and having that whole volunteering thing on my CV makes me stand out to a certain extent, because people are like, oh, okay, so you are an international student, how did you even know about it? So I'm like, isn't it all online there? It's just that how you want to look out for those things. You need that hunger to do things in life. So I remember when I was one of the only Indians who was volunteering with the Melbourne Fashion Week at that time in my entire cohort, which made me feel really proud of the fact that, okay, so I have taken the first step, which might, repay me sometime, of course, later in life. My second experience was with Cancer Council Victoria. I volunteered for the Daffodil Day. Trust me, it was a very small and simple thing. 2 days, I just had to go to Chadstone for like 2-3 hours and help them in their desk and everything. But again, that small thing it becomes such a big thing on your resume that they're like, oh my God, you actually worked with Cancer Council Victoria. So again, agreeing with you, the volunteering, small volunteering things becomes such a big thing on your resume, or leave such a big mark on your whole profile. That's how I kept building my profile. Again, in my second year, I volunteered with the Indian Film Festival of Melbourne. I tried to do that in the first year itself, but I was not successful. In the second year, I tried again. I got through Indian Film Festival. That year, Shah Rukh Khan was here. We had the privilege to get a picture click. He came out. We all met. We all went to meet him. He came out such a humble person, honestly. No fandom moments, but yeah, genuinely such a humble person. Came out, got a picture click with all volunteers. We were, of course, running around doing all the work, all the hard work. But that opportunity of witnessing Karan Johar right in front of you, giving a talk on Kuch Kuch Hota Hai, Rajiv Masand talking to Karan Johar. These were the small moments that actually make your whole journey worthwhile. And again, when I go out for an interview and they ask me, oh, so what's Indian Film Festival about? So I tell them about this experience, and it actually shows them how interested and initiative I am, which adds to my skills and values.
I think this shows a very important skill set is the initiative taker and probably a risk taker, and then completing the whole things. You didn't drop out in the middle of the things, and you reattempted for your Indian Film Festival for
Yeah.
the second year. So it's a big value that people see, and trust me, for everyone who has joined this webinar, I personally witnessed specifically for the engineering and technical backgrounds also volunteering is considered to be a really big asset, at least in Australia, that we both have been to Australia. I know of the recruiters in countries like Europe also. It has been considered of a very high reputation. So even if you're volunteering for a social cause or for any other causes, it kind of adds a big value to your profile, probably for your applications also. Okay,
Yeah,
so let's consider. Sorry, let's consider a little bit more about your day-to-day life. How was your day-to-day life? How was the expenses? Because Australia is expensive. If I was not on scholarship, it was damn expensive for me to afford it. So how was your life with your management expenses as a student, and what kind of processes that you took up? If there are any part-time jobs, or how the student life used to look.
So my student life has been more about Monash itself. I'll be very honest. I used to only have lectures like twice or thrice a week, but I used to be on at uni every single day doing something or the other. So I was just as I just mentioned. I won't repeat, but I was very active with in my student life. So I was very much focused on internships and not did not really look at part time as a priority, because I wanted to first explore and get into that whole environment, settle into that environment first. That was something that I really wanted to do in the beginning, and thankfully my family has been really supportive with respect to that. Um, I would just add on to what you just asked, Nikhil. Is student life routine is very different to what we witness in our hometowns and what we witness in bachelors. We need to um, roster everything in our day, like how we're going to do assignments, if we have any part times, if what time to what time do we have to report, all the travel, how far up do we have to go. And initially getting a part time also is a very big challenge. For that also, you need to really go around, talk to people, ask them if there is any opportunity there, if they have any vacancies. Something that I see has worked for many here is going around in your locality and talking to people, especially the local stores, local restaurants, and just talking to them, asking them, hey, I'm looking for work, is there any vacancy here, rather than just submitting online. Because sometimes you just don't know if they're actually looking for something, and you happen to appear in front of them, they're like, yeah, there is one. And even if there is not, and if your approach is good, they might just create one for you. And I'm not saying this out of the blue, I'm telling this from real experiences of myself, my friends, everyone around me throughout these 2 years. That the biggest thing that's helped for people in their favor for looking for part-time jobs is going around with your resumes in hand and just talking to people about it, because you just never know if they might not have one and they might refer you somewhere, and references work well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what's the usual monthly expenses for international students look like in Australia, in Melbourne?
um, A monthly expense would look, if I just break it down, you can get a good good accommodation. For if you want a private accommodation or something, um, it takes around 170 to $200 in per week. I would say your monthly expenses would vary a lot on the kind of lifestyle you want to live. But if for a decent lifestyle where you have your own personal room, your personal space in a shared house, I would say around 1,500 would be should be decent. Which yeah, 1,500 would be a decent one for that.
Okay.
$1,500, huh? Sorry.
Yeah. Australian or Canadian? Sorry, Australian or US?
Australian dollars.
Because there's a big difference between the US and Australian dollars. Yeah. Okay. Uh, let's get down to a little bit about the scholarships. Okay. So how's the scholarship experience for you and for your peers and friends, and what are the opportunities inside and even before applying? What was the experience?
Honestly, Nikhil, I won't be a right person to talk about scholarships because I did not, neither did I get any, nor I don't think Monash. I mean, none of my friends got like a very big amount of scholarship to come to Monash. Of course, I know about a lot of friends who got good scholarships in Deakin or Vic Uni or RMIT, but at Monash, I believe it's a tough one because
Yeah.
the probability of you getting a scholarship, I think, because of too many students applying for it, is the percentage is a bit low, is what I feel.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like, getting scholarship in Monash is not an easy task. So probably if you're applying 6 months before, maybe take a month more and connect to your professors and speak to them about scholarship options. So they are the best ones to guide you about the scholarships. There are very
Yeah.
limited scholarships in Monash. Like there's one Australian Awards. That's a very reputed scholarship. And then Monash also has some fee waivers and financial aids. So if you come from a background which is a little struggling like mine, so you can definitely apply for Means scholarship. So that sometimes they consider like
Yeah,
a
the
fee
Dean
waiver
scholarship.
for
That's
you.
one of the most popular ones, I believe, right?
Yes,
Dean scholarship.
absolutely. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. So yeah, that's something is there. Okay, let's consider the current situation. Post pandemic, post COVID. How's the thing? How's the experience like in the COVID situation?
I believe the COVID situation has been what do I say? It's a challenging time for everyone who is in here, who is actually dealing with it. Honestly, in Melbourne, initially things were okay because of the first phase was still fine, and we were absolutely new to the whole work from home scenario, everything. And then suddenly everything opens up. We are like, okay, fine, Melbourne is doing well. We are all happy that chalo pure world se comparison mein Australia is doing really well. And then the second wave comes out, which is even worse. So I would say that pre-COVID things were easier, and things were more in person, of course, than post-COVID. Post-COVID, everything has gone online. My experience with my work from home, so I'll just highlight that. I started working as a media sales coordinator with Australian Community Media in February. I was just in my office for a month, and then we were moved to work from home on the 23rd of March, and since then we were working from home for like 4 to 5 months. Um, COVID was not a favorable time for businesses, and hence I was asked. I mean, there was layoffs happening. I had to discontinue my work. After that, I have been looking for a new opportunity for myself to explore and engage with. So during COVID, during my work from home, it was very challenging. I'll be honest, it was very challenging for me, a person who likes to be out there, a person who likes to go in, sit in an office. At least I would just like a change of place. I mean, रूम में ही बैठो, रूम में ही सो, उसी वहीं पे काम करो. It's like it was getting on my nerves. Trust me,
Yeah.
by the end of the third, fourth month, I got to imagine that every time I used to call, when are we going back to office? When are we going back to office? That was my patent question. I really, Manmeet, as soon as I know, I will definitely tell you. So I was like, okay, ठीक है, चलो, let's wait. And after all, I only had to leave, so no point. But things were very difficult and very different as far
Okay.
as work was concerned. My experience of working in an office, in an advertising firm and my experience of working from home in an advertising firm, just so different.
Okay. Talking about the work, can you shed some more light about the work visas that an international student can opt for, and how the work visa, the PR, and the job scenario looks like there?
Okay, of course. So once you've completed like 2 years of that's like 98 points on the Australian soil, like your 2 years masters on the Australian soil, completing some 98 points, you are applicable for 485 graduate work visa. That's exactly what I am. So once you're done with your graduate, once you've completed your masters until the last date of your student visa, you are applicable to um, apply for the 485 graduate work visa, which allows you to work for 2 years from the date you are from the date it starts until 2 years from then, to work on the Australian soil with no work restrictions. So you can work for any number of hours. There are no restrictions. There are absolutely, you don't require a sponsorship in for those 2 years. So that's exactly what I'm doing at the moment. That's the visa I am on right now. With respect to PR and everything, um, I would say for students who come with the goal of PR should one be very picky and very particular about the course that they opt for, because not every course in Australia is happily giving out PR options. So one takeaway here would be, please check the course that you want to go for if you are having an aim of getting a PR. It'll just help you and make your journey easier. That's what I would say. Because with marketing, with media, things are really difficult for a PR. Okay, so if I want to go for a PR, I went to the lawyer and I had a chat with him. He was like, do another course if you want to, just ease out your way, or sponsorships are something that you just don't get so easily. So that's one of the very difficult things. That's the reason why there's this skill occupancy list that the government offers. You should check the occupancy list if you're looking for PR options, because the skill occupancy list exactly tells you which course has which visas applicable for it, and it'll just give you some extra information, and it will help you not land in the wrong course if you're looking for PR. With respect to the job market, Nikhil, COVID has actually not been a boon for a lot of businesses. Though media, I would say, especially with online digital marketing and web marketing, these things are going well because the IT, everything's online, everything's on your laptop. So these are the few things that are going well. But apart from that, businesses are not that good. So the job market is really tough for every job right now. There are like thousands of applicants. That's what they're telling us. When we just call them up to ask the status on our application, they're like, sorry, but there are like thousands of people who already applied. Please give us some time to go through it. I'm like, it's okay. I understand. I'm really sorry to bother you. And I feel bad for them. Yeah, HRs are like sitting and going through thousands of applications. Of course, they have like their ATS and all of that, but still, thousands अगर भी नीचे करो तो like 250, 300 applications. Yeah. So I feel like, okay, I'm sorry. So that's it.
I understand that. I think Australia being a little bit more of a PR focused country, for the work scenario, right? Okay. I have heard of this notion like a regional masters versus masters in urban city. Does it give any preference, like if you're doing in a tier 2 city versus a tier 1 city?
Yeah, it does. So that's also a good avenue to explore. So if you actually planning to do it from Tasmania or Adelaide, you get it. So it's like these cities have their own points. I mean, you working in these cities have their own points. So there's just a whole point system that you need to collect so many points to file your documents. Working in these cities have additional points to it, but and studying in this city will actually help you pave a pathway for the jobs in these cities. So maybe that's a good way to approach it, I would say.
Okay. Okay, let's understand the payback periods. That have you calculated your payback periods or any ROI as such? You know, it's very
Um,
difficult to do so as of
yeah,
this
it's
now.
very difficult. I mean, I don't have exactly an exact figure to give you. My biggest ROI would be sorry, a return on experience. I mean, I want the whole investment that I'm putting in here. My personally, my ROI is not exactly monetary, but my experience of working, my learning, and my connection, my networks that I'm building. That's an ROI that I look forward to, and that's how I would like to measure my journey here at Monash
Okay.
and in Delhi.
And how does LinkedIn works there in your academic professional life? Like, is LinkedIn more easier as a platform to connect, or is it like does Australia have a recognition for LinkedIn or as such?
Yes, I would say a very big yes for it. I wouldn't say it's only Australia, but I've observed this one thing that a good LinkedIn helps to leave a good mark on recruiters, on connections, on really high profile people whom you would like to, connect or engage with. Um, Australia, and particularly, yes, there are a lot of recruiters who recruit through LinkedIn as well, LinkedIn platforms. I mean, if they see your profile, they happen to like it, and they have something for you, they themselves will might get in touch with you. So yes, a big thumbs up for it. Please make sure your LinkedIn's are always up to date. Engage with people, comment on their posts, like their posts, even a small word, even a good comment. You just never know who's watching you when. More than Facebook, if you're actually looking forward to build your network in a professional background, I believe LinkedIn is a platform that you really need to dedicate time to. You just can't make a profile and let it stay there, because that
Yeah,
actually won't work. So if you would
absolutely.
have seen when I was looking for, when I actually posted for a job opportunities, a shout out to all recruiters. I when people comment, you go back, re-comment. That's actually how the whole
Mm.
analytics also works, right? So you go, you engage, people engage with it, you again further engage with it. So it keeps popping on people's profiles, and you again just never know who's watching it when.
Absolutely. So here we come to the end of the session almost. So any particular tips that you want to give to the students who are planning to study in Australia in near future?
One thing I would say is just know what your priorities are. I mean, I know it's easier said than done, but just try to have an idea. I mean, if you want to explore Melbourne, explore your university, make sure you do it. If you want to earn well, if you want to support yourself, again, make sure you do it. And the third would be engage with people, make the most out of this whole experience. Please just don't just look at university and university as just a place to go and study. It's so much more than it, and you just never know how things will help you. Just sharing a small example, one of my internships that I got through university had to be ended because of unforeseen circumstances. Just because I had good terms, I was able to secure a social media internship with Monash University itself, which helped me get 3 of my articles published on Monash University's website. Again, university is an abundance of opportunities. Just be out there. Don't sit at home and see, just scroll through Facebook. अच्छा कल ये मैं join करूँगी, परसों मैं वो join करूँगी. Go for their meetings. Talk to people. You really don't know कोई आपके पड़ोसी वाले एरिया का ही वहाँ पे निकलता है, and that's happened with me. That happened with me. I mean,
Wow.
I was talking to a friend and she's like, dude, मैं ये estate हिरनंदानी estate में रहती हूँ. I was like, it's like 5 kilometers from my house. Like really, and we are like meeting here. So it's good. You find mentors. Just find a mentor for yourself. What you want to do in life, stick to it. Make friends. Enjoy the whole 2 years to the fullest, because student life is never gonna come back. It's never gonna come back, and it's one of the wonderful experiences to live, and not just to work and waste. Not waste, but yeah, just work. I would say.
I understand. Okay, so now we have questions. So the first question is something that I believe we might have talked about it. Like, how is pandemic situation going to impact international students?
Pandemic has a very it's gonna make things very challenging for international students, particularly who are still studying. You know, they are all, for example, for students, there are two categories of students. One who are already here and they are studying from home, and the other category would be people who are planning to come, or who are just, you know, who happen to go back to their countries for a vacation and who are not able to come here. So that's a really very bad situation for them. But for students who are already here, who have already enrolled in courses, it's really, I would say, it's not fair to just learn everything online, because you just can't learn everything online. There's a reason why we have classes. There's a reason why we have professors teaching in classes. It's all a package, I would say. It's not just the academics that are taught in the university. It's a whole thing. So I would say the impact on international students is gonna be very harsh, and they would be struggling a bit to come out of this thing. Because I've seen my friends, yeah, I mean, they're studying these units all online, and I'm like, I really feel bad, because when we did it in class, it was so much more different and so much more meaningful.
I understand. I think that's a big challenge, a big shift in the learning experience. It would be, though I think Australia has done something very intriguing. I read in the news that they have started the online masters, also getting accreditations for the work visa, which is very new. I think that has been recently posted. So, but I would still recommend the people who are, planning to go right away. You might have to check with the university if they are opening up a hybrid model anytime sooner. Else, complete online masters may not make sense for you guys. That's something going to be difficult. So it's a matter of choice, like who wants a degree or versus who wants an experience. So degree and experience are two different things that people might have to look at. Okay. So yeah, someone has asked a little bit of, about your HPAIR experience and the preparations. Like how did you prepare for your HPAIR?
HPAIR. Nikhil, after me, you gotta answer this, because you actually prepared. You remember we met at Starbucks and we had this conversation about Australia में क्या-क्या चीजें नहीं होनी चाहिए, कितने जानवर है वहाँ पे. You were the one who scared us. Sharks, remember? So you better answer that. Okay, but coming to the point, HPAIR is something that I came across very randomly. One of my friends just told me that he's applying for it. You remember Kaushal Chetty, one of our so he told me that मैं apply कर रहा हूँ, try and see how things work. Again, I came across it. I was like, चलो देखते हैं भर के what's the harm, ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा क्या आएगा, rejection ही आएगा ना, कोई बात नहीं. So I went for it. I submitted my questionnaire. It took me like almost 3 days to finish the whole question, because there were like 3 big questions.
3 essays,
I think
yeah.
One was something about yourself. The third was Australia's role in Asia Pacific trade.
Yes,
something of those.
Yes, absolutely.
Third was a very general knowledge question. Second, I don't remember what the second was. So we had to answer these 3 questions, and that took me like a good amount of time of research, especially for the third one. First two तो चलो लिख लिया था.
Yes.
So the third one actually took some amount of time, and I decided that I really wanted to give it a good shot. बाकी जो होगा भगवान भरोसे, but करना खुद, एक बार खुद की पूरी 100% देनी है. I went for it. I got the interview call, Skype interview.
You got the interview also?
Yeah, I had an interview also. Wow. I had a proper Skype interview. I don't remember who took it now, but so I had a proper Skype interview. They were asking like good questions about your track. So Nikhil, what was your track? I was in business and world economy.
I was in sustainability, earth science, mining.
So for those who don't know, we had like these 5 tracks, like 5 topics that we all had to choose from. So don't ask me which 5 topics were there. I just remember 2 or 3. Now it's been like 3 years. So I was in business and world economy. So they were asking me questions around why business and world economy, what do you want, what do you want to gain from this? So that's how the whole Skype session happened. And the last question was, if we give you an anywhere door, where do you want to go right now? And I was in my room. I had Golden Temple's picture right there, and I just was like, I was not able to come. I like Golden Temple. I would like just want to go there because I really find that place very serene. So that's how my whole interview went. Um,
Wow.
I got a call, and then yes, there I was selected for the Harvard Project for Asian and International Relations, which made me realize that how important it is to just go for things. Like it's so important to just go for it. Baki, everything will fall in place. You just have to just go for it.
Absolutely. I think it was my first ever foreign experience. The same, I tried I had a little weird story. Like I got into two conferences. I had to choose between them. HPR was definitely one of the important ones I chose. And
Yeah.
being a bit more on the research side, and since I was the one who is doing the crowdfunding for my event,
Yeah,
so
I remember. Yeah.
so yeah, a little bit of a revelation. So I basically did a crowdfunding to attend HPR. So raised around $2,500 to $600 in a short span of time, like 4 days, which I think HPR nowadays covers in their blogs that hey, this is the guy who also did crowdfunding and all. So the big takeaway with HPR and similar kind of conferences is you get to know world and the kind of way people live and the kind of opportunities that you can have with your efforts is really different. Your ROI in terms of efforts versus opportunities are way different in Australia versus in India because of the population being one of the biggest factor. Here you're
Yeah,
competing with millions and millions of people. There a little
absolutely.
lower competition is there, and I've seen people in Monash University itself, people who have survived for 1 year and even paid their tuition fee because their professor relationship was really good. Professor used to give them teaching assistantship with even
Yeah,
40 for $50 an hour. So it's a big amount of 40 $50 an hour, to
yeah,
gain, and even to have teaching assistantship on your profile. So these things would
absolutely.
really help if you're going abroad. In any ways, try to have an opportunity to go abroad so that you can get that exposure out there. So this brings to a very interesting question. I think we discussed this. So is volunteering and all helps to make our resume good for applications also?
Yes. A big thumbs up for that, because when you're writing, I mean, when you're applying for a role, they ask you very they ask you about your skills and how did you develop them. The reason why I say that volunteering plays a very important role here would be you are able to justify how were you able to develop those skills. For example, if they ask me, how tell us an example where you took initiative in a very difficult situation, I talk about my Indian Film Festival of Melbourne, when there was when we were backstage and we had to manage the cue cards. The cue cards were actually printed. A few of them were printed wrong, so we had to just run around, get it done, make sure we have the right ones, make sure the host has the right cue cards. So these are the two, three instances how I am able to put myself out there and how I'm able to justify my skills. So again, reinstating that point that yes, volunteering roles are very helpful because they also show how active as a personality you are, because a lot of people just have academics on their resume. This again helps you to stand out of the crowd.
Okay. So how during this current situation or the time, because lockdowns is kind of everywhere, one
Yeah.
student can strengthen their chances to crack international university admissions. Any tips?
Okay, to crack an international university admission is, first of all, what I think is the most important document while you're applying to a university is the statement of purpose. So a well-written, a well-articulated statement of purpose is what leaves your first impression, because you're not interacting with anyone. So in the statement of purpose, how are you able to talk about, because everyone is going through this situation and it's not alien to anyone, right? um, how are you able to justify what you're doing with your time during this lockdown is something that I believe can help you raise your chances. For example, if you are doing some short courses, if you are following your passions, if you are doing some doing some taking up some sporting activities, like basic ones, like doing something that you're really passionate about, you might be able to talk about this in your statement of purpose as per, as a proper segment, that while the whole world was dealing with these difficult times, I took this moment for myself and developed XYZ things. So this gives a good impression, and this helps any student to justify and talk about the gap, the time gap that the whole world is going through, and how you want to. So it's like everyone's in the pond. हम सब उस pond में हैं, but all we are all in the fishes of the pond. But how are we able to swim through it is what depends upon us. So if you just gonna say कि ठीक है मैं COVID के time पे I was not able to do anything, and so that again does not get their attention. So trying to justify what you're doing during this time, especially while you're applying to international universities, is something that I believe might work in your favor.
Absolutely. There's a very famous saying called, when the going gets tougher, the tougher gets going. So, try to take advantage of the situation, try to work hard even more, because you may stand out of the crowd, and there's a high likelihood when you come in that zone of the outcast or the limited people, there's a high likelihood of a good admission and even a scholarship. So I think yes. So
sorry, Nikhil, I have a message to me privately from Sonia. So just wanted to tell Sonia, no, I haven't joined any institution after my degree to work on my soft skills or my public speaking skills. This is something that I've gradually developed while going out there. So a key takeaway for that, I would say, is please don't restrict yourself. Even though you feel that you don't want to go out there, try to try to show some trust in a few people. Try to start interacting. That helps you a lot. That gives you another level of confidence, and slowly and steadily you will be there.
Absolutely. I think being extrovert is something that is inherent, but you can always practice and develop your good communication skills. Just be open to people, or just be open to yourself, so that you can break those ice among other people. So I think HBR gave me a lot of this thing, because I literally remember going out, meeting 460 handshakes I did with HBR with all the people, and introduce myself. So it kind of helps people to build those networks also. Okay, so I think this leads to the end of the session. So thank you really a lot. Like thanks very much, Manmeet, to bring to come up with very short notice, and I believe students would have loved this session. This session is anyway getting recorded. Probably in a couple of weeks it will get published with proper editings and all. So if anyone has any question, they can probably reach out to Manmeet on probably LinkedIn, and and if you have any questions regarding higher education, you can reach any of us out, and we'll be happy to help in certain ways.
Yeah.
Okay.
So thank you so much for having me.